In the vast darkness of space, the Volanthi Empire had ruled for 10,000 years. Their ships crossed galaxies. Their telepaths could read minds across planets. Their warriors moved like water and struck like lightning. They were ancient when humans still lived in caves. And yet, on a small blue planet called Earth, something was about to change the galaxy forever. Princess Sovel stood at the window of her transport ship and watched Earth grow larger. She was the third daughter of Emperor Kethvel, and everyone in the Empire knew what that meant. She was the disappointment, the failure, the princess who could barely use her telepathic gifts. The royal who lost every training match against her sisters thought her father had called it a diplomatic mission, a chance to observe the newest species in the Galactic Council. But Yuna knew the truth. This was exile. Her father was sending her away because he was tired of being embarrassed by her dad. The transport landed at a human military base. Yuna stepped out and immediately felt wrong. The gravity was heavier than her homeworld. The air smelled strange. The sun was too bright. Everything about this planet seemed designed to make her uncomfortable. A human male was waiting for her. He was not tall by human standards, but he stood like a mountain. His hair was cut short and gray showed at his temples. His face had lines that spoke of hard years and harder choices. He wore a simple uniform with no decorations. "Princess Sovel," he said. His voice was calm and flat. "I am Sergeant Major Park Junho. I will be your liaison during your stay on Earth." Yuna looked at him with the distant politeness she had learned at court. "Thank you for receiving me. I expect my quarters will be comfortable." Junho's expression did not change. "They will be adequate." Over the next few days, Yuna settled into her role as a diplomatic observer. She attended meetings. She smiled at human officials. She sent reports to her father that said nothing important. She was bored and lonely and trying very hard not to show it, but something kept pulling her attention. Every morning, she saw human soldiers training in the yard below her window, and what she saw confused her deeply. Volanthi warriors trained by perfecting their natural gifts. They meditated to strengthen their telepathy. They practiced movements until they were beautiful and precise. Training was about becoming more of what you already were. Human training was nothing like that. She watched soldiers run until they collapsed. She watched them lift heavy weights until their muscles shook and failed. She watched them fight each other, get knocked down, and get back up bleeding. She watched them do the same exercises over and over, hundreds of times, thousands of times. They had no telepathy, no natural gifts. Their bodies were fragile compared to most species. And yet, they pushed themselves through pain that would make a Volanthi warrior stop. One morning, Yuna found herself standing at the edge of the training yard. She did not remember walking there. Sergeant Major Park was leading a group of young soldiers through an exercise that looked like torture. They were crawling through mud under ropes while carrying heavy packs. One young soldier fell and could not get up. Yuna expected the instructor to help him or dismiss him. Instead, Junho simply stood over him and waited. The other soldiers kept going. The fallen one lay in the mud, breathing hard. Then, slowly, he pushed himself up. His arm shook. His face was twisted with effort. But he got up and kept crawling. Jun-Ho gave no praise. He simply watched and moved on. Yuna stood there for a long time after the training ended. The soldiers limped away to eat and rest. Junho stayed behind, checking equipment. "Why do you do this to them?" Yuna asked. Junho looked at her. His eyes were dark and calm like deep water. "Do what, princess?" "Push them until they break. There is no elegance in this. No beauty. Only suffering." Junho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Humans are not born strong, princess. We have no telepathy, no natural weapons, no thick skin. Compared to most species in the galaxy, we are soft and weak and short-lived. Then why does everyone in the council seem afraid of you? Junho almost smiled. Almost. Because we learned something a long time ago. Strength that you are born with can be taken away. Strength that you build through suffering cannot. We do not train to become perfect. We train to become unbreakable. Yuna thought about her sisters. They were born with powerful gifts. They never had to struggle. And they looked at her like she was nothing because she was not born the same way. Could you train someone who was not human? She asked. The words came out before she could stop them. Junho studied her for a long moment. His eyes seemed to see through her royal clothes and her diplomatic smile and her carefully practiced expressions. He saw the girl who had been called a failure her whole life. I could train anyone who was willing to suffer for what they want, he said. But I must warn you, Princess. It will cost you 100 days of your life. And you will hate me before you love the results. Yuna thought about her father who sent her away, her sisters who mocked her, the court that whispered about her behind her back. She thought about the young soldier in the mud who refused to stay down. I accept, she said. Jun-Ho nodded once. There was no ceremony, no formal agreement. Just a simple nod between two people who understood each other. We begin tomorrow at sunrise. Wear clothes you do not mind destroying. Leave your jewelry and your titles in your room. Where we are going, you are not a princess. You are a student. That night, Yuna sent a message to her father. She told him that she was beginning a special cultural exchange program and would be unavailable for some time. She did not explain further. He probably would not read it anyway. She woke before dawn and dressed in the simple training clothes that had been left outside her door. They were rough and plain. She had never worn anything like them. When she arrived at the training yard, Junho was already there. He handed her a heavy backpack without a word. What is this for? She asked. You will carry it everywhere. You will eat with it. Sleep with it. It will become part of you. Yuna put on the pack. It was heavier than she expected. Her shoulders already ached. Jun-Ho pointed to the road that led up into the mountains. Run until you fall. Then get up and run more. I will be behind you. How far? Until you fall. Yuna took a breath and started running. The pack dug into her shoulders. The road stretched endlessly ahead. The sun rose over the mountains like a burning eye. Day 1 had begun. She had no idea that these 100 days would turn her into someone the galaxy would never forget. She had no idea that the lessons she learned on this small planet would one day save an empire. All she knew was that her legs hurt and the road was long and somewhere behind her. A human was watching to see if she would quit. She did not quit. The first week nearly destroyed her. Yuna had thought she understood what training meant. She was wrong. Human training was not about learning. It was about breaking. And Park Junho broke her down piece by piece. Every morning began the same way. She woke before the sun in a small room with no luxuries. No servants brought her food. No soft music played. There was only a hard bed, a small window, and a heavy backpack waiting by the door. She ran. She climbed. She crawled through mud. She carried logs on her shoulders until her bones felt like they would snap. She did exercises she did not have names for until her muscles screamed and failed. And she fell. Again and again, she fell. On the third day, she collapsed halfway up a mountain trail and could not get up. Her legs simply refused to obey her. She lay on the rocky ground and cried. Not quiet tears. Ugly, choking sobs that came from somewhere deep inside her. Junho stood nearby and said nothing. He did not help her up. He did not tell her it was okay. He just waited. I cannot do this, she gasped between sobs. I am not built for this. My body is not like yours. You are right, Junho said calmly. Your body is not like mine. It is weaker. It will take longer to build. But the principle is the same. Pain is temporary. Quitting is permanent. What if I want to quit? Then quit. The transport can take you back to your comfortable quarters. You can return to being a diplomatic observer. No one will think less of you. That was the cruelest thing he could have said, because they both knew it was a lie. Everyone would think less of her. She would think less of herself. Yuna pushed herself up. Her arm shook so badly she almost fell again. But she got up, and she kept walking. That became the pattern of her days. Fall, cry, get up, continue, fall again, get up again. There was no end to it. Just the next step and the next dot. By the second week, Yuna stopped crying. Not because the training got easier. It did not. She stopped because she ran out of tears. She stopped because crying took energy, and she needed every drop of energy. Just to survive. She learned what humans meant by muscle memory. In Volanti training, warriors used their telepathic gifts to coordinate their movements. They thought about every action. Humans did something different. They repeated movements so many times that their bodies learned to do them without thinking. Your mind is slow, Junho explained one evening. By the time you think about dodging a punch, the punch has already hit you. But if your body knows how to dodge without waiting for your mind, you can react faster than thought. It sounded impossible, but Yuna began to understand it during weapons training. Junho made her swing a wooden stick 10,000 times. The same motion, over and over, until her shoulders burned and her palms bled through their bandages. At first, every swing required concentration. By the 5,000th swing, her arms moved on their own. Her mind could wander while her body performed the motion perfectly. This is how humans fight, she realized. You turn your bodies into machines. Machines can be broken, Junho said. We turn our bodies into habits. Habits are harder to break. The days blurred together. Wake, train, eat, train more, sleep, repeat. Yuna lost track of time. She lost track of everything except the next task in front of her. She wrote angry messages to her sisters on her personal device. She told them that her human handler was a monster. That Earth was a terrible planet. That humans were crazy for doing this to themselves voluntarily. She never sent the messages. She just needed to put her anger somewhere. But somewhere in the middle of the third week, something changed. Yuna was running the mountain trail again. The same trail where she had collapsed and cried. Her lungs burned. Her legs ached. The backpack felt like it was filled with stones. And then she reached the top. She had never reached the top before. She always fell somewhere along the way. But this time, her legs carried her all the way up. She stood at the peak and looked out at the mountains stretching into the distance. She was breathing hard. Her whole body hurt. But she was standing. Jun-Ho reached the top a few minutes later. He was barely winded. He looked at her and gave a small nod. That was all. Just a nod. No praise. No celebration. Just a simple acknowledgement that she had done something she could not do before. That nod meant more to Yuna than any honor she had received at the imperial court, because the honors at court were given for being born royal. This nod was earned through suffering. On day 25, Yuna completed her first full training circuit without stopping. Running, climbing, crawling, lifting, fighting. 4 hours of continuous effort. She finished and stood swaying on her feet, covered in mud and sweat. Junho gave her another nod. Tomorrow we begin the next phase, he said. What is the next phase? You have learned to endure pain. Now you learn to give it. Combat training begins at sunrise. Yuna felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. She had always been the worst fighter in her family. Her sisters could defeat her without trying. But that was Volanti fighting, which relied on telepathic prediction and natural grace. Maybe human fighting would be different. "I should warn you," Junho said. "Combat training is harder than what you have done so far. You will get hurt. You will bleed. You will want to quit more than ever. Will you let me quit? I will always let you quit. That is the point. You must choose every day to continue. Strength means nothing if it is forced. Real strength comes from choosing pain when comfort is available." That night, Yuna looked at herself in the small mirror in her room. She barely recognized the person staring back at her. Her face was thinner. Her arms showed muscles she had never had before. Her hands were rough with calluses. She did not look like a princess anymore, but for the first time in her life, she looked like someone who could not be ignored. She thought about her father sending her away. She thought about her sisters laughing at her. She thought about all the people who saw her as nothing. They had no idea what was happening on this small planet. They had no idea what she was becoming. Good, she thought. Let them underestimate me. Let them think I am still the weak princess they sent away. When I return, I will show them what human training creates. She fell asleep with aching muscles and a fierce smile. Day 30 was over. 70 days remained. And the hard part had not even begun. Combat training was nothing like Yuna expected. In the Volanti Empire, warriors fought with elegance. They danced around each other, using telepathy to predict attacks before they came. Victory went to whoever had the strongest mental gifts and the most graceful form. Fighting was almost beautiful to watch. Human fighting was not beautiful. It was brutal and messy and sometimes ugly. And Park Junho taught it without mercy. "Hit me," he said on the first day of combat training. Yuna threw a punch at his chest. He caught her wrist, twisted, and a moment later she was on her back staring at the sky. She had not even seen him move. Again, he said. She got up and attacked again. And again she found herself on the ground. This happened 17 times before Junho stopped her. "You fight like a Volanti," he said. "You think about each move before you make it. You telegraph your attacks. Any opponent with half a brain can see what you will do before you do it. How else am I supposed to fight? Stop thinking. Your body knows the movements now. We spent 30 days building those habits. Trust them. React without thought. Let your mind go quiet and let your muscles do what they have learned." It took a week before Yuna understood what he meant. In Volanti fighting, the mind controlled the body. In human fighting, the mind got out of the body's way. It felt wrong at first. It felt like losing control. But slowly, she learned to let her body move on instinct. Her strikes became faster. Not because she was stronger, but because she was not waiting for her brain to approve each movement. Her dodges became smoother. She stopped trying to predict attacks and started simply reacting to them. But the hardest lesson was yet to come. On day 40, Junho introduced her to what he called practical combat. "Volanti fighting is about honor," he said. "Human fighting is about winning. Sometimes those are the same thing. Often they are not." He taught her to fight dirty, to strike at weak points, to use her environment as a weapon, to accept getting hit if it meant she could hit back harder. He taught her that sometimes the winning move was to let an opponent think they were winning until it was too late. This is not honorable, Yuna said after a particularly brutal session where she had learned to use sand to blind an opponent. "Honor is a luxury," Junho replied. "Survival is not. When someone is trying to kill you, they do not care about honor. They care about killing you. If you worry about fighting fairly while they fight to win, you die. Is dying with honor better than living without it? Yuna thought about the question for a long time. In the Empire, honor was everything. But honor had not protected her from her sisters. Honor had not stopped her father from sending her away. Honor was something powerful people talked about because they could afford to. I think, she said slowly, that honor matters. But survival matters more. And the dead cannot protect anyone. Junho nodded. Now you are thinking like a soldier. Between combat sessions, Junho taught her human military history. Not the dates and battles, but the stories. Stories of soldiers who held positions against impossible odds. Stories of small units that defeated larger forces through cleverness and determination. Stories of humans protecting strangers they had never met and would never see again. Why do humans fight so hard? Yuna asked one evening. You are fragile. Your lives are short. Most species in the galaxy avoid conflict when possible. But humans seem to run toward it. Junho was quiet for a moment. Because we know we are fragile, he said finally. We know our lives are short. That is exactly why we cannot afford to lose. Other species can afford to retreat and wait. We cannot. Every moment matters because we have so few of them. On day 50, Junho took Yuna to a human city. It was her first time leaving the training facility in weeks. The city was loud and crowded and overwhelming. People rushed everywhere. Vehicles filled the streets. Lights flashed and sounds blended into a constant roar. Why are we here? Yuna asked. To show you something important. Watch the people. Tell me what you see. Yuna watched. She saw humans of all sizes and ages. Some looked strong. Most did not. They were soft and slow and busy with their ordinary lives. They did not look like warriors. Then something happened. A large man was bothering a young woman near a food stall. He was standing too close, saying things that made her uncomfortable. She tried to walk away. He grabbed her arm. Before Yuna could react, an elderly woman pushed through the crowd. She was small and gray-haired and walked with a slight limp. She looked like she would break if someone pushed her too hard. She marched up to the large man and started shouting at him. Her voice was loud and fierce. She pointed at him with a wrinkled finger. She called for others to watch. She made such a scene that the man let go of the young woman and walked away. Embarrassed, the elderly woman checked if the young woman was okay, patted her shoulder, and went back to her shopping like nothing had happened. Yuna stared. She could not have won if he fought her. No, Junho agreed. She knew that. She stood up anyway. Why? Because someone needed help. That is enough reason for a human. We do not calculate odds before deciding to act. We see someone in trouble and we move. It is not logic. It is something deeper. Yuna thought about the Volanthi cord. If someone was being bullied there, others would look away. Getting involved meant risk. It was smarter to stay silent. No one would interfere without calculating the political consequences first. But this old woman had seen a stranger in trouble and immediately moved to help. No calculation. No hesitation. Just action. This is what makes humans dangerous, Junho said. Not our weapons or our training, but the fact that any human, anywhere, might decide to fight for something. An old woman in a market. A child standing up to a bully. A soldier refusing to retreat. We are all carrying the same fire. They returned to the training facility that evening. Yuna threw herself into combat practice with new intensity. She stopped fighting like a Volanthi princess who was trying to learn human techniques. She started fighting like a human dot. She took hits she could have avoided because doing so let her land stronger blows. She used every advantage she could find. She fought without elegance, but with fierce determination. On day 60, Junho tested her against a human soldier twice her size. The soldier was younger and faster and had been training his whole life. He expected an easy victory against the alien princess. The fight lasted 4 minutes. Yuna lost. But the soldier was limping when he walked away, and there was new respect in his eyes. "You are not ready yet," Junho said after. "But you are getting close." That night, a message arrived from the Volanthi Empire. Yuna read it with trembling hands. Her eldest sister, Crown Princess Sovel, was coming to Earth. She wanted to inspect the diplomatic mission. She wanted to see what had become of her embarrassing little sister. Yuna put down the message and looked at her calloused hands. She thought about the old woman in the market. She thought about every fall, every bruise, every moment of pain over the last 60 days. Sela thought she was coming to see a failure. She had no idea what she was actually going to find. 40 days remained, and the real test was about to begin. The transport ship descended from the sky like a silver knife. Crown Princess Sovel always traveled in style. Her vessel was larger than it needed to be, decorated with the symbols of the royal family, surrounded by escort craft. Everything about her arrival announced that someone important had come. Yuna stood among the human diplomats waiting on the landing pad. She wore her training clothes. Her hands were calloused, and her face was thinner than before. She did not look like a princess anymore. She looked like someone who worked for a living. Sela emerged from the ship with 4 elite guards behind her. She was tall and perfect in every way. Her silver hair flowed like water. Her eyes held the deep glow that showed powerful telepathic gifts. She moved with the natural grace that Yuna had always lacked. She was everything a Volanthi princess should be. And she knew it. "Little sister," Sela said, her voice sweet with false warmth. "How thin you have become. Are the humans not feeding you properly?" "I am eating well, sister. The training just burns more than I eat." "Training?" Sela's eyes swept over Yuna's rough clothes and strong shoulders. "Oh yes, I heard you were playing soldier with the humans." "How amusing. Father asked me to check on you while I was in this sector. He worries, you know." That was a lie. Their father had not thought about Yuna in months. But Sela liked to pretend she cared. "I appreciate your concern," Yuna said carefully. "I hope your visit is pleasant." Sela smiled her perfect smile. "I want to see what you have learned. These human training methods are a curiosity. Our researchers would like a demonstration." "A demonstration?" "A simple sparring match. Nothing serious. I brought Kenthva with me." She gestured to the largest of her guards. He was massive even by Volanthi standards, a warrior who had served the royal family for 40 years. "He will go easy on you, of course." The human diplomats shifted uncomfortably. They could see what this was. A powerful sister come to humiliate a weaker one. It was a game nobles played in every species. Park Junho stepped forward. His face was calm and unreadable. "The princess has not completed her training. Perhaps we could delay the demonstration." Sela's smile did not waver, but her eyes grew cold. "Are you refusing a request from the imperial family, human?" "I am suggesting a delay, for the princess's benefit." Yuna put a hand on Junho's arm. "It is all right," she said quietly. "I will do it." He looked at her for a long moment. Something passed between them. An understanding. Then he nodded once and stepped back. The demonstration was arranged for that evening in the human military training hall. Word spread quickly. By the time Yuna arrived, the hall was packed with both humans and Volanthi diplomats. Everyone wanted to see the failed princess try to fight an elite guard. Kenthvior stood in the center of the hall. He was wearing light combat armor. His face was blank and professional. He was not here to humiliate anyone. He was simply following orders. Yuna stepped into the fighting circle wearing her training clothes. No armor, no weapons, just herself. "The rules are simple," Sela announced from her seat above the hall. First to 3 clean strikes wins. Try not to hurt her too badly, HFY. She is still my sister. Light laughter rippled through the Volanthi observers. The humans stayed silent. Junho stood at the edge of the hall with his arms crossed. The fight began. HFY moved first. He flowed across the floor with perfect Volanthi grace, his telepathic senses reaching out to read Yuna's intentions. He knew where she would move before she moved. He knew where she would strike before she struck. This was how Volanthi warriors fought. They predicted everything. His first blow came fast and precise. He expected Yuna to try to block or dodge. She did neither. She let the strike hit her shoulder and used the momentum to spin inside his guard. Her elbow cracked against his ribs. HFY staggered back, surprised. "One strike to the princess," the judge called. The crowd went silent. No one had expected that. Sela's smile flickered. HFY reset and came again. This time he was more cautious. He used his telepathy more carefully, searching for Yuna's thoughts, trying to predict her moves. But Yuna was not thinking. Her mind was quiet and empty. Her body moved on muscle memory, on the habits built through 10,000 repetitions. There was nothing to predict because there was no thought to read. The guard adapted. He stopped trying to predict and simply used his superior speed and strength. His next 3 strikes were brutal and direct. Yuna could not avoid them all. She took the hits. She let them land. And she kept coming. A blow to her stomach bent her double. She came up swinging. A kick to her leg nearly dropped her. She rolled with it and threw sand from the floor into his eyes. "Dishonorable," one of the Volanthi shouted. "No rules against it," the human judge responded. HFY wiped his eyes and struck hard. His fist connected with Yuna's chest, and she flew backward, hitting the ground hard. That was 2 clean strikes for him. She should have stayed down. Every Volanthi in the room expected her to yield. She was outmatched. There was no shame in admitting defeat against a warrior of HFY's caliber. Yuna got up. Her breath was ragged. Blood dripped from a cut on her forehead. Her left arm hung awkwardly. But she got up and raised her fists. "You do not have to continue," HFY said. His voice was not mocking. It was almost respectful. "You have fought well. The fight is not over," Yuna said. They continued. HFY landed his 3rd strike within seconds. The match was officially over. He had won, but Yuna did not fall. She stood there, swaying, bleeding, refusing to drop. "The match is over," Sela called out. "You can stop now, sister." "I know," Yuna said. "But he has not knocked me down." She was right. She had taken 3 clean strikes, but she was still standing. She had lost by the rules, but she had not fallen. HFY struck again. It was a test. A hard blow to her injured shoulder. Yuna gasped but did not fall. He struck again. And again. Each hit was harder than the last. The human soldiers watching began to mutter. This was not a sparring match anymore. It was brutality. Jun-Ho did not move. His eyes never left Yuna. After the 7th extra blow, HFY stopped. He was breathing hard. Not from exhaustion, but from something else. He looked at Yuna with an expression that the Volanthi observers did not understand. Fear, not fear of her strength. Fear of whatever was inside her that refused to break. He had fought 100 warriors. All of them knew when to yield. This small princess who could barely use her telepathy simply would not stop. "Enough," he said, stepping back. "The match is over. She has lost." Yuna stood alone in the center of the hall. She was bleeding from a dozen small wounds. Her body was a map of bruises. She could barely stand, but she was standing. The humans began to applaud. It started soft, then grew. They were not clapping for victory. They were clapping for something else. Something they recognized. Sella's face was cold and still. "You have learned to suffer," she said from her seat. "That is not strength, little sister. That is stupidity." She turned and walked out without another word. Her guards followed. Kentvar paused at the door and looked back at Yuna one more time. Then he was gone. The hall slowly emptied. Junho walked to where Yuna still stood and caught her as she finally collapsed. "I lost," she whispered. "You did not quit," he said, lifting her carefully. "That is more important than winning, is it? Ask Kentvar. He won the match. But look at his eyes before he left. He knows he did not really defeat you. He knows that if there were no rules, you would have kept fighting until one of you could not move anymore. And he is not sure it would have been you." That night, Yuna lay in her bed wrapped in bandages. Everything hurt. But she did not feel defeated. 30 days remained. And tomorrow, the final phase would begin. Learning to lead. The bruises from the fight with Kentvias had not fully healed when Junho started the next phase of training. Yuna expected more physical challenges, more pain, more exhaustion. Instead, Junho sat her down in front of a screen and gave her command of a simulated military unit. "You have 50 soldiers," he said. "The enemy has 200. They are blocking the only road to a village that needs medical supplies. The villagers will start dying in 6 hours. What do you do?" Yuna studied the map on the screen. "I attack. My soldiers are better trained. We can break through." Junho pressed a button. The simulation played out. Her soldiers attacked. Half of them died. The survivors broke through, but they were too injured to carry the supplies. The villagers died anyway. "Try again," Junho said. Different approach. Yuna tried flanking. She tried waiting for reinforcements. She tried negotiating. Each time, something went wrong. Each time, people died. "This is impossible," she said after the 20th attempt. "There is no way to save everyone." "Correct," Junho said. "Now you understand leadership. A leader does not always win. Sometimes a leader chooses who lives and who dies. Sometimes all the options are bad and you must pick the least bad one. Can you make that choice? I do not want that responsibility. No good leader does. That is why good leaders are rare." The simulations continued for days. Yuna learned to make hard decisions quickly. She learned to accept that some people would die no matter what she did. She learned that hesitation cost more lives than wrong decisions. But the hardest lesson came from studying human military history. Junho showed her records of human leaders throughout the ages. Not the politicians or the generals who commanded from safe rooms. The leaders who stood with their soldiers in the mud and the blood and the fear. "This is the human way of leadership," Junho explained. "We do not send others to die while we stay safe. We go first. We take the same risks as those we lead. A soldier will follow a leader who bleeds beside them. They will not follow one who watches from a distance." Yuna thought about the Velanthi court. The emperor gave orders from his throne. The generals moved pieces on a board. No one important ever risked themselves. That was what servants and soldiers were for. "Is that not inefficient?" she asked. "If a leader dies, the whole unit loses direction." "Yes, it is inefficient. It is also the only way humans know how to lead. We do not follow titles. We follow people we trust. And trust must be earned through shared risk." On day 82, everything changed. Yuna was in the middle of a simulation when alarms started blaring across the training facility. Emergency lights flashed. People ran through the corridors, shouting orders. "What is happening?" Yuna asked. June Dash, who checked his communication device. His face went tight. Transport ship crash. Orbital Station 12. They are venting atmosphere. There are casualties. Are humans going to help? Rescue teams are mobilizing now. But there is a problem. He looked at her. There are Volanthi diplomats on that station. Minor nobles from the trade delegation. Human rescue teams do not know Volanthi biology. They could kill the survivors while trying to save them. Yuna understood immediately. Volanthi had different pressure requirements, different temperature tolerances, different medical needs. A human rescuer might give aid that would help a human and kill a Volanthi. I should go, she said. No, I know Volanthi biology. I can help the rescue teams treat the survivors correctly. You are not a medic. You are not a rescuer. You are a princess in training. If something happens to you, there will be diplomatic consequences. And if the survivors die because no one knew how to help them? Junho grabbed her arm. His grip was strong. I forbid you to go. Yuna looked at him calmly. You taught me that leaders go first. You taught me that we do not send others into danger while staying safe ourselves. Was that a lie? His grip did not loosen. That was for soldiers. You are not a soldier yet. Then consider this my graduation exam. She pulled free and ran for the shuttle bay. Junho did not follow. The shuttle ride to the orbital station took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of watching emergency signals and listening to rescue teams coordinate. 20 minutes of wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. The station was chaos when she arrived. Smoke filled the corridors. Emergency lights created flashing shadows. Human rescuers moved through the wreckage, pulling survivors from collapsed sections. Yuna found the rescue team leader, a woman named Lieutenant Cho. I am Princess Univel. I know Volanthi medical procedures. Tell me where the Volanthi survivors are. Cho did not argue. She pointed down a corridor. Section 7. We found 3 alive, but we do not know how to help them. One keeps screaming when we try to move him. Yuna ran. She found the Volanthi survivors huddled in a damaged room. 2 adults and a child. The child was crying. One adult was unconscious. The other was the one screaming because rescuers had tried to apply a human heating blanket. Volanthi needed cold temperatures. The heat was burning him slowly. Remove that, Yuna ordered, pointing at the blanket. Get me ice packs. His core temperature must go down, not up. The human rescuers obeyed without question. Yuna worked quickly, using everything she knew about her own species. She stabilized the burned Volanthi. She checked the unconscious one and found internal bleeding that humans would have missed. She calmed the child with soft words in their native language. Then the station shook. Metal screamed. A new section was collapsing. We have to move, Cho shouted. Now, but the unconscious Volanthi could not be carried safely. His injuries were too severe. Moving him would kill him. How many people are in the section that is collapsing? Yuna asked. Cho checked her scanner. 12. All human workers. If we seal that section, will the station survive? Yes, but anyone still inside will die. Yuna closed her eyes. She heard Junho's voice in her memory. A leader chooses who lives and who dies. Is there anyone else in this section besides us and these 3 Volanthi? 1. A human engineer trying to repair the pressure seal. Name is Park. Park? Yuna felt cold. First name? Unknown. We only have last names on the scanner. It could not be Junho. He had stayed on Earth, but the name still made her hesitate. The station shook again. They were out of time. Get the 2 mobile survivors to the shuttle, Yuna ordered. I will carry the child. The unconscious one stays here with me. We wait for the engineer. That is a risk to your life, Princess. I know. Cho did not argue. She organized the evacuation. Yuna stayed behind with the unconscious Valanthe and the crying child in her arms. The engineer came running 3 minutes later. It was not Junho. It was a young woman with soot on her face and fear in her eyes. "The seal is fixed," she gasped. "We can go. The collapsing section?" "Already sealed. The people inside." She could not finish. 12 people dead. Because there was no way to save them and save everyone else. Yuna picked up the unconscious Valanthe in a carry she had learned during training. The engineer helped. Together, they made it to the shuttle just before the station's emergency systems kicked in. The ride back to Earth was quiet. The rescued Valanthe were being treated. The child had fallen asleep in Yuna's arms. The young engineer stared at nothing, thinking about the 12 people they could not save. Junho was waiting when the shuttle landed. He looked at Yuna for a long time. She was covered in dust and someone else's blood. She was holding a sleeping child. She looked exhausted and sad and older than she had that. "Morning. You disobeyed orders." He sighed. "Yes. You risked your life for strangers." "Yes. You made a choice that killed 12 people to save a coast of days." 100. "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Now you understand what leadership costs. It does not feel good. It will never feel good. But you made the choice because it needed to be made. That is what leaders do." Yuna handed the sleeping child to a waiting medic. Her arms felt empty. "Did I do the right thing?" she asked quietly. "I do not know," Junho said. "No one ever knows for certain. But you did what needed to be done. And you did not run away from the weight of it. That is enough." Day 90 ended with Yuna sitting alone, thinking about 12 strangers who died because she made a choice. 10 days remained. And then she would return home to an empire that had no idea what she had become. Day 100 ended quietly. No ceremony. No celebration. Just Junho handing Yuna a small wooden box. "What is this?" she asked. "A gift. Open it when you need to remember why you suffered." She took the box without opening it. Some things were meant to be saved. "Thank you," she said. The words felt too small for what she meant. Jun-Ho gave her the same small nod he had given on day 25. The nod that meant she had done something impossible. "You came here as a princess who believed she was weak. You leave as something else. What am I now? That is for you to decide. I only gave you tools. How you use them is your choice." The transport ship arrived the next morning to take her back to the Empire. Yuna watched Earth grow smaller through the window. She did not feel like she was going home. She felt like she was leaving one behind. The message from her father reached her halfway through the journey. A crisis was unfolding. A rebel faction had taken control of 3 border worlds. They had hostages, including children from noble families. The military wanted to attack. The diplomats wanted to negotiate. Neither option would save the hostages. The emperor was recalling all royal family members for safety. It was not a request. It was an order. Yuna arrived at the imperial palace to find chaos barely hidden beneath a calm surface. Advisors rushed through corridors. Military commanders argued in council chambers. Her sisters were nowhere to be seen. Safely secured in the inner palace. No one noticed Yuna's return. No one cared. She was still the failed princess in their eyes. She went to the council chamber where her father sat on his throne, surrounded by generals and diplomats shouting over each other. "An attack will kill the hostages," a diplomat yelled. "Negotiation shows weakness," a general shouted back. "Other factions will see it as an invitation to do the same." The emperor looked tired, old. He had ruled for centuries, but this crisis had no good answer. "Father," Yuna said, stepping forward. The room went quiet. People turned to look at her. She saw confusion in their faces. She looked different, moved different. Some did not even recognize her at first. Yuna? Her father said, I sent orders for you to remain in the inner palace. I received them. I am here anyway. Whispers rippled through the council. A princess defying the emperor? Unheard of. I have a proposal, Yuna continued. A small team. Infiltration, not attack. We go in quiet, extract the hostages, and leave before the rebels know we were there. Laughter erupted from several generals. Infiltration? Against rebels who have fortified 3 worlds? Impossible. Not impossible. Difficult, but not impossible. And who would lead this fantasy mission? One general asked mockingly. You? Yes. The laughter stopped. People stared. The emperor leaned forward on his throne. You have been gone for 3 months, playing with humans on their little planet, he said slowly. And you come back demanding to lead a military operation? I am not demanding. I am requesting the chance to prove myself. If the council's best warrior can defeat me in single combat, I will return to my quarters and say nothing more. If I win, I get permission to try. More silence. Then someone laughed again. Then more joined. The idea of the weakest princess defeating anyone was apparently hilarious, but Yuna did not laugh. She stood calm and still in the center of the chamber, waiting. The emperor studied her. He saw something in her eyes that had not been there before. Something hard and quiet. Very well, he said. Commander Thelvex, you are the finest warrior in this council. Tester. Thelvex stepped forward. He was everything Yuna was not. Tall, powerful, telepathically gifted. He had served the Empire for 200 years. He looked at Yuna like she was already defeated. I will try not to hurt you, princess, he said politely. Do not hold back, Yuna replied. I will not. They faced each other in the center of the chamber. No rules were announced. This was not a formal duel. Just a test. Thelvex attacked first. He moved with perfect Volanthi grace, his telepathy reaching out to read Yuna's intentions. He expected an easy victory. He did not get one. Yuna's mind was quiet, empty. There was nothing to read. Her body moved on instinct, muscle memory, 10,000 hours of repetition. She did not think about blocking. She just blocked. She did not think about countering. She just countered. Thelvex adjusted, using raw speed and strength. He landed a blow to her ribs that would have dropped any normal Volanthi. Yuna absorbed it and kept coming. He hit her again. And again. She took damage that should have ended the fight. She bled. She bruised. But she did not stop, and she hit back. Her strikes were not elegant. They were brutal and efficient. She aimed for weak points. She used angles that Volanthi training did not prepare for. She fought like a human. The council watched in stunned silence. Thelvex grew frustrated. He was winning on points, landing more hits. But he could not put her down. Every time he thought she was finished, she came back harder. It was like fighting someone who did not understand the concept of defeat. Finally, he made a mistake. He overextended on a strike, expecting her to retreat. She did not retreat. She stepped into the blow, let it hit her shoulder, and drove her elbow into his throat. Thelvex dropped. He was not seriously hurt. But for a long moment, he could not breathe. When he finally recovered, he looked up at Yuna with an expression the council had never seen on his face. Uncertainty. Yield, Yuna said quietly. Or we continue. He yielded. The chamber was silent. No one moved. No one seemed to know what to say. The emperor rose from his throne. He walked down the steps slowly and stood before his daughter. What did that human teach you? He asked. He taught me that strength is not what you are born with. It is what you refuse to let go of. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded once. You have your permission. Pick your team. Bring back the hostages. The mission launched 3 days later. Yuna led a small team of volunteers, none of them from noble families. All of them soldiers who had heard about the princess who defeated Zelvex. She used human tactics, deception, misdirection, calculated risk. She walked into the rebel stronghold alone, pretending to negotiate, drawing their attention while her team infiltrated through maintenance tunnels. When the rebels realized what was happening, it was too late. The hostages were already moving toward extraction. Fighting broke out. Yuna stayed behind to cover the retreat. She fought 4 rebels in a corridor for 90 seconds. She killed 2 and wounded 2. She took a blade to her arm and a blow to her head that nearly knocked her out, but she bought enough time. The hostages escaped. The shuttle launched. Yuna was the last one out. She collapsed the moment she was aboard, but she woke up in a medical bay in the Imperial Palace. Her father was sitting beside her bed. You almost died, he said, but the hostages are safe. Yes, they are safe. He paused. I have watched recordings of your mission. I have never seen a Volanthi fight like that. I did not fight like a Volanthi. I fought like a human. He was silent for a long time. Then he said something she had never heard from him before. I was wrong to send you away. I thought I was hiding a failure. I was hiding a treasure I was too blind to see. Yuna did not know what to say. She had spent her whole life wanting to hear those words. Now that she had them, they felt less important than she expected. What will you do now? Her father asked. Start a program. Send Volanthi to train with humans. What happened to me can happen to others. We can learn from them. They can learn from us. The program began 6 months later. Yuna selected the first volunteers herself. Young Volanthi who had been told they were not good enough. Failures. Disappointments done. She sent them to Earth with a message. Park Junho was waiting when the first group arrived. He looked at the nervous young Volanthi standing on the landing pad. They looked like Yuna had looked on her first day, scared, uncertain, ready to be broken. He would build them. Back stronger dot across the galaxy. Stories spread. The failed princess who became something new. The human training that turned weakness into strength. The quiet revolution in how the Volanthi understood power. And in her quarters on the Imperial Palace, Yuna finally opened the wooden box Junho had given her. Inside was a simple stone, rough and gray and ordinary. Attached was a note in Junho's handwriting. This stone sat at the top of the mountain trail where you first reached the summit. It is nothing special, just a rock that was there when you proved to yourself that you could do impossible things. Keep it to remember. You were never weak. You were just unfinished. Yuna held the stone and smiled. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again, and they would never underestimate her.